concert promoter Bill Graham came to teach one of our classes one day at Columbia. And I was so inspired, I took the next semester off and drove out to California with the intention of going to San Francisco and going to track down BGP and try to get a job with him in live sound.
You ever have a chance to read Bill Graham's book? Excellent.
Yeah. But I stopped in LA to see some friends and got I was just 20 years old, so I got a job with my former band director from Atlanta who lived out here doing inventory for his sheet music company for about 3 weeks, made a couple dollars, and I decided to make some phone calls. My dad had given me 3 numbers of some guys that had worked for him at Ampeg 20 years prior. So the first guy didn't answer the phone. This is 1989, there's no cell phones or message machines really. And then the second guy, who was at Fender, told me to call these crazy South Africans in Chino making tube amps. And I'm like, that doesn't sound too good. But I went and did that anyway. We got a job at the company called Vacuum Tube Logic. And the first day I walked in there, what are these things? And those are high fidelity audiophile tube amplifiers. And I'm like, what? I had no idea what I was even looking at, but I just started at the bottommost rung, being taught by the Mexicans how to solder, how to screw stuff together. And before long, I was learning all about electronics, just doing it on the job.
And she cleaned up a lot. She cleaned up a lot of stuff.
I need to get a haircut, but yeah. No.
But you know, it's funny because what she's saying, basically there's always one person that made us change the direction.
Mm-hmm.
Me with it was Bob Moog. Bob Moog, I used to write him, and he used to send me schematics, and I had a correspondence with him. And he was the one that got me interested, and switched on Bach when it came to the grade school that I went to. That was not the girl, but the guy.
When she was a guy.
Yeah. And he did switched on Bach and performed it there with a Model 3 with the 3 panels and everything like that, and that was it. It was done, and it was one time that I can remember that, you know. And I'm sure everybody here has that one moment where somebody said that just made an impression on you and said, I want to.
See, I don't have a somebody, but I have an event. I remember we were on a car trip. I don't know where we were going, somewhere in New Jersey. Nirvana Nevermind came on. Any Nirvana Nevermind fans? Anyone? Mm-hmm. And it was In Bloom. So there's the intro to In Bloom. And I heard those drums. Well, I later found out they were samples, so I heard those drums. I was like, man, that's amazing. I became obsessed with just getting that drum sound. And had I not maybe been in that car that day and heard those drums on that very particular moment, maybe I wouldn't have made drum samples, maybe I wouldn't have gotten audio, maybe I wouldn't have gotten arrested back in 2002.
I had to change your name.
Exactly.
It happens.
How did you wind up being a tech at the studios?
Well, I grew up in Palo Alto, which was a different place in the 60s than it is now. But my father taught physics at Stanford, and so I spent a lot of time in the physics department at Stanford, and they had me build some little things, little projects, and I learned from the grad students there. I built weird little power supply things for their oscilloscope. They did a thing that's, what was it called? Kind of like,
Atom bomb?
Yeah.
No, that's a Manhattan project.
Or anthrax.
No, they had like a science fairy kind of like hallway in the physics department that they put together and had one of the first.
Science fairies. What?
Well, kind of like, I don't know what they call
Oh,
it.
science fair.
What is that place in San Francisco that?
Exploratorium.
Yeah. Okay.
Stereo.
So we kind of wanted to make like a little exploratorium, and I built some stuff, and I started working for a band, and then I sort of learned a bit about it there, and then I took a course in San Francisco in kind of late 70s at a place called College for Recording Arts. And at that time, you know, there's a lot of recording schools now. At that time, there was 2 schools in the U.S. There was the Institute for Audio Research in New York, and there was the College for Recording Arts in San Francisco, and that was it. There's nothing else in it. University of Miami just started a program, I guess, like early 80s, and a lot of our, you know, God engineers like Andrew Sheps, Joe Barisi, John Paterni, they all went through that program at Miami. But I went to this guy, Leo DeGarcolco, ran it in San Francisco, and he had a lathe, he had a Neumann lathe, and he did mastering, but he engineered before that. He did a lot of I think early Jefferson Airplane stuff, but he also recorded tequila.
How do you record tequila? How do you drink it?
No, it's a song. But we've all heard it before.
The Champs.
And the Champs, that's right. He recorded the Champs, but that kind of got between the physics department and a guy there named Dave Tonelli, who had a pirate radio station in the Oakland Hills. Dave taught me more of the audio kind of end of stuff, and then then I came to LA for a job.
I had a pirate radio station once.
Did you?
It was awesome. Until I saw this van outside with a round antenna,
Right.
and they were trying to locate it.
Oh,
And they had
wow.
a guy from a radio station. He used to do.
You gotta be careful when you turn the thing on.
Yeah, I did first class. I had a first class radio telephone license when I was a kid, and I used to do engineering. When engineers would go on vacation.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, and what's funny? What's funny is these guys would always go on vacation when the tower lights needed to be changed. So I've been on some very tall towers changing light bulbs.
Ooh.
But yeah, that's scary. There's a great YouTube video of a guy climbing to the top of some building in Dubai and then going up to the point where you can't have safety anymore, and he's going up this pole to change this bulb on the top of this antenna, and you look down and it's 10,000 miles.
My knees get shaky.
Oh, and I'm just but you're bulletproof when you're younger. It doesn't matter, It's just yeah, I can do that. You get up there and the guy turns a transmitter on, your belt buckle gets hot, and it's funny.
So it seems basically you could end up at your destination here, and I mean you're all making products basically you didn't have to take one particular path to get there. And I know in your case, and the products that you make they're solutions that people wanted.
That's right.
Just things like, hey, no one has a box that does this. And so you're this is a useful thing that people could use.
Well, in the studios that I worked at, a lot of times they needed special stuff, and I was always the one who built it. And Ivana's husband, he's a fantastic mastering engineer, and I was lucky enough to work with him at A&M, and I built a lot of stuff for Dave.
What's his name then?
Dave
Oh,
Collins.
yes. Plugging. He's at work right now.
And this is Ivana Collins.
It is.
And we did some really unique stuff. And Dave, I think, I was really good at implementing it, and Dave was incredible of just knowing, some
Describing precisely what he wanted and saying, this is what I need to
Yeah.
do this, and you could build it. Because a lot of people can't.
Back then, at least, he was a bit of a hacker actually putting it together, but his
He
theory
still
was
kind of is, but we've got people for that now.
Exactly.
But you
I
love it
was
for
at
other
people
reasons.
then, and so yeah, that kind of got me into it. And some of those things, if you ever go into Henson Studios, which used to be A&M Studios, you still see the digital audio routers I built for them and stuff, and it's all, see my little name in the corner and some of that shit. So
And that's but in a very similar thing, you're trying to build products that basically no one's done anything like it before, like the Raven and stuff like that. You're trying to come up with new avenues, whereas for
glue iPads together.
yeah.
Saving this guy's Raven will save you years of your life in wasted time. Just remember I said that when you start using it.
There's really not much more I can say. I'll just say, yeah, I was lucky enough to start in the industry when literally it was just even right before the whole ADAT thing was happening. So I was only 14 or 15 when I was in the pro studio, and and everything was taped. In order to create music, if you think about this, it's 2014. So if you rewind 20 years ago, in order to create professional music, you needed a 2-inch tape machine. So what are we talking about? That's 50 grand right there. You need a pretty decent large format console. Now we're talking an extra $250,000 to $100,000.
those things,
Yeah, so you
$1 million
needed,
easy.
if you wanted effects and you wanted, reverb and stuff, add another few racks of, gear. We're talking another 100 grand. Yeah, so we're talking another 100 grand there. Then when you finally finish the mix, you got to print it to what? Another tape machine, another 1/2-inch deck. So add another 15 grand for a decent
Well,
1/2-inch
you
deck.
would go and rent time in the studio.
What's that?
There are these things called recording studios.
Well, yeah, but my point
You
is
just go
this.
and rent time there.
So my point is
Make
this.
your record there.
So my point is this. So think about all that stuff just 20 years ago, what it took to make professional music. Now we're in 2014. What does it take to produce music now?
Your iPhone.
A laptop? You know, I mean, think about how cool that is. I mean, we're literally living in the future. And I think that's a great thing. So I really embrace that because I never felt like, you know, music as an art should be reserved for the, you know, elite or the rich. So I think it's a really cool thing.
That's a really good point. That's a very important point.
I like tree drum.
Because the opportunities that you have nowadays.
Sure.
You know.
You know, I mean, I've heard some of the greatest music ever, you know, made by bands in one of the band members' living rooms or bedrooms or basements or rehearsal rooms. And I think that's a really cool thing. I don't know exactly where I'm going with this.
That's why all the records today are so much better than those ones from 30 years ago.
Well, I mean, so Jonathan makes an interesting point. And here's the thing, though. You know, you can find crappy records from 30 years ago. You can find great records from 30 years ago. You can find great music today. You know, I was listening to what's this artist called? Who's the guy who sings "Take Me to Church"?
That's a great
Oh,
song.
God, great.
Amazing, this
Great
new
song.
Irish artist. I read about it. Had a very little recording budget. Amazing song, amazing
Take me to
artist.
church.
It's called "Take Me to Church." You should check it
You
out.
will love it.
Unbelievable
gorgeous.
artist, and his whole album is great. So I don't buy the whole all music's all crap today. Well, first of all, I mean, you know, one thing that's different about today in
I
30
never
years
said that.
ago,
I'd say it sounds
it was
better now.
Someone insinuated, but anyway. The point is,
Settle
I mean,
down, fellas.
you have access to see lots of music. So of course, if you access the internet, you can see everyone's music. You're going to be a lot more.
Yeah.
You're exposed to a lot more stuff, and like any stuff, some of it's going to be good to you, some of it's going to be bad to you. You know,
But yeah,
so-
but in the old days, you would never even hear these, you know, because you used to be able to make a 45, make 1,000 of them, make 500 of them. And there were millions of them around, but they would never go beyond your friends.
Yeah, you don't need hookers and blow to get stuff on YouTube.
Exactly, exactly.
Which
But that's, you know, it's interesting because in the old days, it was really the you know, Tascam came out, or TAC came out with the Porta Studio, and that was the first time that people could actually record at home. Because I mean, I had a tape machine, I used to do, you know, sound on sound, it was a big deal, you know. But it's true, there's the opportunity now, is anybody has the same opportunity. Before, you had to do the hookers and the blow and the money, and you had to do the whole process just to get in the door, to get somebody to listen to what your stuff was. Now you don't have to do that. But you have to work your ass off to get to that point. Which,
Nobody's having any
you know.
fun.
but you know, and the thing is we're in a rebirth right now. This industry is just in a hole. But the thing is you guys are going to pull it out because you're the next wave, and that's what has to happen. But it's gonna come back. It has to, because it won't disappear. People will not tolerate a loss of music. It just has to be reinvented because everybody's trying to do it the way they used to do it, and it just doesn't work. Somebody's going to come up with the new way. You know, iTunes was an incredible way. But before iTunes, a lot of people didn't know that Walmart sold more MP3s than anybody else in the industry before there was iTunes. They were the biggest distributor of MP3s.
Really?
Yeah, and people don't even know that. And that's the thing. Some people see the vision, some people don't. But when you figure it out, when you see a vision in something, you go for it. And you're going to be right or you're going to be wrong. Don't try to emulate what's out there. You just go for it. It's like what everybody here has done. We did stuff.
Do you go into Walmart to buy that, or do you go online?
What's that?
Do you have to go into Walmart to buy it? Or
No, you could buy it. You could buy it when the internet was first. You could buy it. You could actually go on and buy it and download it.
Really?
Yes, it was amazing. You know,
Napster.
and
Why'd
then they
you know
started
you could
screwing their
just steal
employees
it?
and getting rid of the health